Hi, Julie Jones from SSP Performance, Smarter, Stronger, Better Mindset Training, here with this week's Mindset Made Simple Tip of the Week, brought to you by Game Day Sportswear. This week we're talking about from artists to athletes, the power of our mind's eye. This past weekend, Jensen and I had great seats to the Cleveland Guardians game. Thanks to Jen McCoy, my former player. Shout out Stotty. Thanks for the tickets. They were awesome. And it was a great game. They bunted. They stole. They did a first and third. They hit home runs. There's a pickoff play going bad where we scored and we won. It was a great day at the corner of Carnegie and Ontario in downtown Cleveland. And Jungle Jerry was there with snakes, and we'll have a tip about that soon. And they had a caricature artist. And we've never had a caricature done of us. So I said, dude, let's go sit for this. So we sat down, and all I could think about for the rest of the afternoon, hit or miss, was how this guy was using visualization to create his masterpiece, if you will. He would look at us and then draw, and look at us and draw, and look at us and draw. And I thought, gosh, he is capturing an image and then creating this image in his mind that he's transferring to a piece of paper with a marker, different size markers. He knew exactly what he wanted to look like based on what we looked like. He's capturing images. The image stays in his mind. He looks away from us and then he draws. So clearly the image was there, or he wouldn't be able to draw us. And he wasn't just staring at us and drawing at the same time. Try that. It's almost impossible. He was visualizing or imagining and creating these pictures that turned into art, if you want to call it that. Very cute art. All I could think about was, gosh, this is what we do. And why are we not using this? Our mind, I don't know anything about art, but I know this. Our mind is a really valuable tool and a really powerful tool when it comes to images and reliving or creating or recreating scenarios. Great artists use it all the time. In fact, some of the best artists in the world in history use their mind's eye to create these beautiful sculptures and paintings, like Michelangelo. He says that I saw the angel in the marble and carved until I set him free. He saw David in his mind's eye. David was long gone. He wasn't standing there posing for the picture. But Michelangelo knew what he wanted it to look like. And then he created it. Monet did the same thing, but he did it with shadows. He would imagine what the sun would look like in different stages of the day on lilies or whatever he was putting on his palette. Amazing. Amazing. Athletes that use mental rehearsal perform better. This kid from Akron named LeBron James says that he uses mental rehearsal, imagery, visualization, whatever you want to call it, to create in his mind different scenarios on the court. He says it helps him stay focused and increases his confidence. He needs confidence. Even the best need confidence. Olympic skier Lindsey Vonn used the same thing. She would before each run, she would visualize the entire course, rehearsing every turn, every jump, every obstacle that may come in her way. And she said it helped her prepare, helped her return from injury, which we know she had tons of injuries, and helped get her back in the game faster. She used it all the time. We need to be using it as well. Study after study after study show that athletes who regularly practice mental imagery or mental rehearsal. I like to call it rehearsal because I feel like you're actually living it, you're feeling it, all your senses are in it more than just seeing an image. I think that makes a difference in my mind, at least. They said they have improved performance, particularly in motor context tasks. I read a study quite a while ago that talked about playing the piano, and they had people play a passage. 2.5 minutes, whatever it was, for a certain amount of time, for a certain number of times. And then they had people imagine the same exact passage. And what they found was the motor cortex in both groups lit up exactly the same. When we're imagining doing something, our brain lights up just as it was if we were actually doing it. Dr. Améric Guillot, a leading researcher in motor cognition, says this. He explains that mental imagery can facilitate motor learning by stimulating the neural patterns that occur during physical movement. In other words, when athletes rehearse making a perfect pass or making, scoring a goal or whatever it is, the stuff that we would be using, this is softball coach's terms, not motor context researcher, the stuff that we would be using lights up. So when we're imagining throwing, we're imagining it, our brain knows exactly what muscles would be used in that action, and it's sending signals there. It's sending blueprints. It's telling our muscles what we want them to do. It's being there before we get there. They also found that athletes who use mental rehearsal in their training had a higher rate of skill retention and were better able to perform under pressure. Why? Because we've imagined being there before. We've rehearsed being there before. We're sending signals to the muscles that we would be using. We're sending signals to the emotions, or we're preparing for the emotion that we would feel. Right? Artists sometimes spend hours and hours researching, looking at the meticulous detail of their subject in order to create these images. And we can do the same thing, but it doesn't have to take hours. It can take seconds before an actual skill, or you can do something as complex as play out the entire scenario before you get to competition. It will give you a leg up on preparation. You've already been there. You can rehearse a conversation. It doesn't have to just be skill related. You can rehearse a speech. You can rehearse how you need to feel when you're going to do something that matters. You can rehearse anything. And we need to do that in order to be our best. Now, clearly, everything that we see won't come true. But if we can't see it, how will we ever really do it? Going through a complete dress rehearsal before competition, or a mental rehearsal. That's why they have dress rehearsals in the arts. They go through and make sure everything's working. We can do the same thing. We can make sure everything's working. We can make sure we know what's going on. Drew Brees would mentally rehearse everything that he was going to do. He would even kinesthetically do it. He would go through and imagine taking his drop steps and then imagine seeing his receiver out there. He said it was like getting the answers to the test before the test. It was preparing him for what he was about to do, and he was sending blueprints to everything in his body to say, hey, when we get in this scenario, this is what we're going to do. Let's get ready for it. As psychologist Dr. Donald Herb said more than 75 years ago, neurons that fire together wire together. Right? What Dr. Yeo said was, we're sending blueprints to the part of our bodies that need to move when we need them to move in our mind's eye. They're stimulating what we need to rehearse. It's that simple. But there are a couple ways that we can work this in, and it doesn't have to take a lot of time. You can stand before you go to the plate. Imagine watching the ball come off your bat. Or before the game starts, imagine taking your first pitch. Or before you go to a facility. Whenever there's something new, we're going to have increased pressure. It's just the way things work. Imagine yourself there before you get there. Two things that we can remember on this. Obviously, this is most effective when we involve all the senses. That's why I call it rehearsal. We need to feel it. We need to hear it. We need to emote it, if you will. We need to see it. We need to live it. Recreate everything we can, or create everything that we can. I always picture myself before I go to speak with my lapel mic on, that clothes that I'm going to wear, the room. I have people send pictures of the room that I'm going to be in. I want to be there before I'm there. And then obviously consistent practice makes this more likely that we'll use it under pressure. If we don't practice it in practice, we are not going to use it under pressure. That's not how we work. And what we practice, we get better at. And we can see images more and more clearly, whether it's out of our eyes or watching ourselves on a movie screen. You choose. There's good things about both. But if we can practice them, we're more likely to use them in actual competition. Just like an artist's success depends on being able to see past or see on his piece of paper what he was just looking at, we too can create the images that we want to step into. We may not be drawing it down, but stepping into that image or that situation that we've already created in our mind and been there can help us relieve pressure. It can help us build confidence. It can help us perform better. So, imagine what you want. See and feel things the way you want them to turn out. Is it a magic bullet? Absolutely not. But if we can't see it or feel it, how are we going to do it under pressure? Try it this week. I'd love to hear your comments. Reach out, juliej@ssbperformance.com, and let's get together and do a 3-part series on how to use mental rehearsal for your team. Simple 3-part sessions, three different sessions, taking you deep into incorporating this into everyday practice, everyday life, everyday use. Have a great week.